Accomplishments, my dad bellowed, slamming his glass onto the table so hard the champagne sloshed over. You've wasted your life. Look at your brother, look at him. And look at you. Forks paused. Glasses hovered in midair. Eyes locked on me, some with pity, others with pure amusement. And then cheers. My aunts, uncles, cousins clapping, toasting to my brother's engagement as if I didn't exist. I sat there frozen, my jaw tightening, my palms glued to my lap under the white tablecloth. My mother said nothing. She adjusted her necklace and smiled politely, not at me, but at the crowd. I wasn't even the afterthought. I was the inconvenience. My brother Evan stood tall in his tailored gray suit, arm wrapped proudly around his fiancée Danielle, Mississippi State real estate queen, apparently. Blonde, slender, perfectly rehearsed. The kind of woman my dad always wanted me to be. But I wasn't. And they never let me forget it. Let's be honest here, Dad continued. Madeline's 31, still renting a one-bedroom apartment, and what does she do again? Something with books. Editor, Dad, I murmured, my voice barely audible. He laughed. Editor. Oh right. The one who edits other people's real work. The guests roared in forced laughter, one of my cousins actually snorting into her drink. I felt it, a punch to the gut that wasn't physical, but it sure left me winded. Then came the line that did it. You'll never amount to anything, Dad spat. You've had your chances. Evan's the one we're proud of.
He's built something.
He's accomplished something. I felt the blood drain from my face, but I didn't move. Not yet. Then, through the awkward silence that followed, a sound no one expected, the slow screech of an old wooden chair against tile. Everyone turned. My grandfather, 79, sharp as ever, wearing his signature navy jacket with the silver pins, stood up. Not in anger, not in applause, just slow, deliberate, and calm. Then it's time, he said, his voice clear and heavy. I show you all what she's been hiding. The room froze. Even the string quartet in the corner stopped mid-song. My dad blinked. Dad, what are you? Sit down, my grandfather said to him. All of you.
Sit down.
Something in his tone made even the smug ones shut up. My brother's fiancée clutched his arm tighter, and Evan, for once, didn't look so confident. Grandpa reached inside his coat pocket and pulled out a folded stack of papers, slightly worn, clipped together. Let me tell you what your unaccomplished daughter has really been doing. He looked at me and nodded. My chest tightened. My secrets. The ones I never planned to share. He turned back to the table. For the past 6 years, he began, Madeline's been running an anonymous grant fund. It's helped over 240 young women in underprivileged areas get into college. She's personally reviewed every application. She's helped them navigate loans, tuition waivers, even paid their housing with her own salary.
Gasps.
Then silence. Even the clinking of cutlery stopped. She's also ghost-edited 7 nonfiction books, 5 of which became bestsellers, he added. Books her company took credit for. Do you know how much they paid her? Barely enough to cover rent. But she did it anyway. I felt my stomach twist. I hadn't wanted anyone to know. Especially not them. Grandpa raised the final sheet. And this is the incorporation certificate for her own publishing house.
Signed. Filed.
Ready to go live next month. She built it in secret. No outside funding. Every dollar she made from editing, she saved. Quietly. Relentlessly. He looked at my father. So tell me again, who in this room has no accomplishments? No one spoke. My dad looked like he'd swallowed a brick. I was still seated. Trembling.
Exposed.
Then my grandfather turned to me and said gently, Stand up, Maddie. I stood. You should be proud of yourself, he said, and then turned to the crowd. All of you should be ashamed. The room was heavy. No one touched their drinks. My dad's face had gone pale, like the words had cracked something open in him, and he didn't know how to seal it back shut. My fingers were still trembling, but I stood there. Every breath in my lungs felt louder than the silence in that hall. Madeline, my grandfather said softly, Do you want to say anything? I opened my mouth,
Closed it.
then lifted my chin. Not really, I said, voice dry. I think the truth said enough. Danielle shifted in her heels, her arms still wrapped around Evan like a polished ornament. Well, she started, with a laugh that didn't land, that's impressive. Really? But let's not make the engagement party about the daughter your future father-in-law just humiliated? Grandpa snapped. The woman this family's ignored, insulted, and mocked for years? Danielle's lips flattened. It's not your fault, I said to her. You don't know what it's like. I don't, she replied, eyebrows lifting. My dad was a rancher in Texas. I scrubbed trucks to afford my degree. I raised a brow. And yet you didn't stop Evan when he joked about me being the librarian in a dead-end dress. You laughed. Her mouth opened and closed again. Grandpa clapped once. All right. Enough ceremony. We've lifted the rug. Seen what's beneath. Dad finally said, clearing his throat. I didn't know she was doing all that. You didn't ask, I said flatly.
He stood now, too.
We're not perfect, Maddie. But if you'd told us. I did. I snapped. Do you remember 4 years ago, when I said I was thinking about starting my own imprint? You laughed. You said don't waste your money on a hobby. Mom said I'd need a man to fund it. I never, Mom began, face flushing. You did, I said quietly. It was during Christmas. I remember, because I spent the rest of the night cleaning the dishes while you all watched reruns in the den. The room stayed frozen. My brother finally spoke. Look, maybe you've got something going now, okay? But this doesn't mean I did anything wrong by succeeding. I worked for what I have. No one said you didn't, Evan, I replied. But your success was never held up as a weapon to beat you with. Mine was always invisible. Until now.
He scoffed.
This feels like a staged moment. Staged. Grandpa boomed. Do you think I'm a prop in your little country club drama? Evan winced. No, that's not. I watched this girl grow up under your criticism, Grandpa said, glaring at my father. Every day, you chipped away at her confidence. You called her quiet.
Weak.
Said she was soft. He turned to me again, his eyes fierce. But you've been stronger than any of them. I finally breathed.
Deep. Shaky.
Then I stepped around the table and walked out. I didn't run. I didn't break down. I just left. Let them sit with it. Let them taste their own silence. I walked to the balcony. The garden outside was lit with soft yellow fairy lights. Below, guests mingled and laughed, unaware of the tension on the top floor. Maddie. I turned.
Grandpa.
You all right? He asked. I will be. He nodded. They'll never see the same again. I don't want them to, I said. I'm done letting them tell me who I am. He handed me something. A velvet pouch. What is this? Open it. Inside. A single gold key. What? It's the spare to the loft I've kept in Manhattan, he said. Fully paid. I never sold it. I always thought I'd give it to someone who deserved a clean slate. Grandpa, I can't. You already earned it. This isn't a gift. This is overdue justice. I stared at him. My voice broke. Why didn't you tell me you were watching all this time? I was waiting, he said. Waiting for the day you'd stand tall even when they tried to bury you. And tonight you did. Back inside, the party stumbled on. Toasts resumed. But something had shifted. I walked back in long enough to take one last look. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom smiled weakly. Evan sipped his drink, his jaw tight. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in my life, I was the one walking out with the last word. And it wasn't even spoken. 3 weeks later, a thick white envelope landed at my apartment door. No return address. Hand-delivered. Inside, a formal invitation. Harborview Awards Gala. Honoring contributions to independent publishing and women's advancement. And there it was, my name. Madeline Grace Whitmore. I stared at the lettering until it blurred. Then I picked up my phone. 10 missed calls.
Dad. Mom.
Evan. Even Danielle. After Grandpa's speech, I'd gone silent. Blocked them all for a while. Let them stew. Let the guilt and curiosity rot in their stomachs like it had once done to me. But now they wanted back in. The first public whisper of who I really was, and suddenly they cared. Not out of love. Out of panic. That weekend I got a call I didn't expect. Not from family. From a reporter. She was young, voice shaky but polite. Miss Whitmore, I wanted to ask if you'd be open to talking about the Atlas Project? I froze. That was the name I'd kept private for 6 years. My nonprofit fund for helping underserved women get into education and publishing. No one had ever linked it to me. How did you? I began. There's chatter online, she said. An anonymous donor finally leaked some of the documentation. Said it was time your name was known. I knew who did it.
Grandpa.
He'd always said, let your work speak louder than your words, but when it's time to speak, don't whisper. By the time the gala night arrived, I was a nervous wreck in a tailored midnight blue dress. Minimal makeup. Hair pulled back. I wasn't trying to impress. I was just trying to show up. For once, for myself. The auditorium shimmered with light. People clinked glasses, hugged old colleagues, traded cards. And then I saw them. My family. All of them. Front row. Dad in a crisp blazer. Mom in pearls. Evan in a tux. Danielle, of course, in gold. My spine stiffened. I wasn't sure if I wanted to scream or laugh. As I stepped toward the stage when my name was called, I caught it. Dad's face. That strange half-proud, half-ashamed look he gave when something didn't go the way he planned. I stood behind the podium. The audience applauded. The MC smiled. A woman who has changed the trajectory of hundreds of lives without seeking a single spotlight. Tonight, we honor the founder of the Atlas Project. Applause. Camera flashes. And in that light, I saw clearly. They didn't clap for me when I was just their daughter. Their sister. The one in hand-me-downs who carried books instead of handbags. But now that others clapped, they wanted in. I leaned into the mic. Thank you for this. I never imagined standing here. Mainly because I was taught never to take up too much space. To let others lead. To silence myself even when I had something worth saying. A murmur went through the room. I continued. I created the Atlas Project in silence. I didn't announce it to my family. I didn't wait for their approval. Because I knew I wouldn't get it. I knew the only applause I'd hear was the sound of my own keyboard at 2 a.m., filling out grant reports. Somewhere in the front row, I saw Mom shift uncomfortably. But I learned something, I said. Silence doesn't protect you from cruelty. It just makes it easier for people to ignore the damage they're causing. Now, Evan looked down at his shoes. So, I'm done being silent. A beat. I stepped back. The standing ovation hit like thunder. After the gala, I didn't wait for them to corner me. But they followed. In the hallway just outside the dressing area. Madeline, Dad called, his tone now lower. Can we talk? I turned.
Slowly.
I guess now you're proud? I asked, arms crossed. He swallowed. I made mistakes. I see that now. Do you? I said flatly. Or, do you just see headlines? He looked stunned. Evan stepped in. Mads, look, I get it. Things got heated. But we're still family. I gave a bitter smile. Family? Funny word. Especially when none of you even knew where I lived for the last 5 years. Danielle tried to smooth things. I think what they're trying to say is they're sorry. I didn't hear the word, I said. Say it. We're sorry, Mom said first. Her voice cracked. We failed you. I needed that before, I replied. When I cried alone in my room, hearing you laugh over Evan's business plans. When I showed you my first magazine feature and you called it a hobby. When I begged to be seen and you all looked away. Dad stepped forward. We want to fix this. No, I said quietly. You want to rewrite it. That landed hard. You don't get to erase what happened and pretend you always believed in me. Tears welled in Mom's eyes. But I didn't move. I didn't soften. You all said I'd never amount to anything, I whispered. Now I'm everything you told me I couldn't be. And I walked away. No second glance. No closure speech. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't need their permission to move on. 2 weeks passed. The speech had gone viral. Someone from the audience had uploaded it to social media. The clip of me saying, "Silence doesn't protect you from cruelty," was now being used on talk shows, motivational pages, and stitched into reels with piano music. My inbox overflowed. Strangers wrote to thank me. Young women said they finally felt seen. A teacher from Oregon sent a message saying she used my words in her classroom discussion about resilience. But the messages from my family? I ignored them all. Until Grandpa called. "Maddie," he said, voice low, "you should come home. Just for an hour." I knew what that meant. He wouldn't ask unless it mattered. The house felt the same. White porch. Same rusted mailbox. Same old rug in the hallway, with that frayed corner no one ever fixed. But this time, when I stepped inside, the energy had changed. They were waiting.
Dad. Mom.
Evan.
Danielle.
And someone I hadn't seen in years. Uncle Ray. The family black sheep. At least that's what I was always told. But now he looked straight at me and nodded. Grandpa stood beside him. "There's something they need to hear," Grandpa said. "Not from me. From him." Ray cleared his throat. "You were 7 when I tried to send you a letter," he said softly. "Do you remember?" I blinked.
No.
"That's because they never gave it to you." He held up an envelope. Old. Faded, with a sticker of a rainbow on the back. "I sent gifts too. Every birthday. I got them returned. Your mom said it was better if I stayed gone. Said I'd confuse you." I turned to Mom. "Is that true?"
She didn't speak.
Dad answered for her. "We thought we were protecting you. Ray made mistakes." Ray's voice was calm.
Yeah.
"I did. But you don't erase someone from a child's life for that." I felt dizzy. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because your strength reminded me of who I used to be. And because I'm proud of you." He walked over, handed me a small square box. Inside was a locket. "I bought this for you. On your 10th birthday." I held it, heart racing. It wasn't expensive, but it felt heavier than gold. Later, as I sat outside on the porch swing, Grandpa joined me. "They kept you in the dark for a long time," he said. "But darkness never lasts, Maddie. You lit your own damn fire." I nodded slowly. "I'm just tired of forgiving people who only care after I've proven them wrong." "You don't have to forgive," he said. "But don't let them live rent-free in your head." I smiled faintly. "I don't think I ever told you this, but I wouldn't have made it without you." He squeezed my shoulder. "You didn't need saving. You just needed someone to remind you of your worth." Inside, I finally looked at my parents. "You apologized," I said. "But that doesn't erase the years." Mom looked down. Dad stayed quiet. "I'm not angry anymore," I added. "But I'm also not interested in pretending things are fine." "We don't expect that," Mom whispered. "Good," I said. "Because I have a life now. And it's bigger than this house. Bigger than your opinions. Bigger than your shame." Evan stood, holding something in his hand. A small hardcover book. I froze when I saw the title. It was my first published book. "I bought it," he said. "Read it in one night. And," he swallowed, "you're better than I'll ever be." I wish I'd said that sooner. I stared at him. For a moment he looked small. Not the golden child. Just a brother. A man realizing too late that his shadow had hurt someone else. "Thank you," I said quietly. "But it doesn't change who I had to become to survive you." Spring came quickly that year. Warmer days. Brighter skies. And somehow, even the city felt lighter, like it knew I was finally breathing differently. My publishing house, Whitmore Inc., launched quietly but spread fast. The stories I chose to release weren't commercial hits. They were real.
Raw.
Survivors, strugglers, voices that had been muted for years. And finally, someone was listening. One morning, I got a call from Harper Lane High School. A teacher had read an interview I'd done online. She asked if I could speak to the senior girls before graduation. I hesitated. Crowds still made me nervous. But I went. The gym smelled like old wood and teenage perfume. 45 girls sat on metal chairs, cross-legged or fidgeting. Their eyes were sharp, tired,
Curious.
I didn't bring slides. I didn't prepare a speech. I just told them the truth. I was told I'd never amount to anything. I began, in a room full of people who laughed while I was humiliated. I didn't fight back that night. I didn't scream. I just remembered. And I built my life in silence, piece by piece. One girl in the back wiped a tear. So, if you've been made to feel invisible, I continued, just know, the best revenge is becoming someone they have to see. The room went still. Then applause. Not loud, but real. Afterward, a girl with frizzy curls and chipped nail polish came up to me. My dad says I'm too sensitive to survive the real world, she whispered. But when you talked, it made me want to try anyway. I knelt down, took her hand gently.
Good, I said.
That means you're already stronger than he'll ever be. Weeks later, I got an email. Subject: one last thing. From my father. I stared at it for a long time before opening. Maddie, I know you don't owe me anything. I know I failed you in more ways than one. But I wanted to say I'm proud of you. Even if I didn't say it when you needed it, I see it now.
I see you.
I don't expect a response. I just wanted you to know.
Dad.
I didn't reply. Not because I hated him, but because I had nothing left to prove. That summer, I stood in the small garden of my Manhattan loft. Grandpa was there, watering a row of wildflowers he insisted on growing himself. You know, he said, not looking up, your father asked me if I thought you'd ever come home again. I smiled. And what did you tell him? I said no. Grandpa chuckled. Because you finally built your home. And it's wherever the hell you say it is now. I laughed. He won't like that answer. He doesn't have to. A breeze passed between us. Peaceful. Quiet. But I do hope, Grandpa added, that one day you forgive them. Not for their sake. For yours. I'm working on it, I said. Then I handed him a copy of the first book I wrote under my own name. He read the title, The Girl They Almost Erased. His eyes welled up. You did it, he whispered. No, I said. I am doing it. And I meant it. Final scene, 1 year later. The engagement party was long forgotten. But one headline lingered. Woman who was told she'd never amount to anything now owns the company that rejected her first manuscript. My phone buzzed. A message from Evan. Saw the article. I know you don't want to talk. But I just wanted to say, I get it now. I really do.
I didn't respond.
Instead, I closed the laptop.
Took my coffee.
Sat on my balcony, overlooking the city I'd once felt too small in. And I whispered to no one but myself. I choose me this time. Because the girl they once dismissed, she never left. She just got tired of asking for a seat at the table. So she